restructuring, concessions from the unions and management. Alexis, back to you.
All right, Peter, we'll stay tuned, waiting for that announcement. So has it seemingly come down to tapping into TARP funds and an orderly bankruptcy for GM and Chrysler? But will this serve as long-term solutions? Two men who have tried to find solutions, albeit from very different perspectives, are Republican Representative Scott Garrett of New Jersey and Republican Representative Thaddeus McCotter from Michigan. Of course, the Republican from Michigan, Thaddeus McCotter, supports the loan. Congressman Garrett does not. Both of them are here with me this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Let me start with you, Congressman Garrett. I understand you were one of the members who sent a note to the White House suggesting that you did not want to see TARP funds used for these bridge loans. We're now hearing word that it is likely that Treasury Secretary Paulson will tap in to those remaining funds. How do you feel about that?
Well, one of the things that the market and I think the economy in general around the world is looking for is consistency. And how do you get consistency? Well, you be consistent, and when you say something, you do it. And the administration was saying on day one, and we agreed with them at that point in time, that TARP funds were not designed, were not voted for, were not authorized to be giving money to manufacturing industry and the like. It's to, as you will, bail out the financial sector and get the economy moving again. The administration initially said that. Now they are being inconsistent by going in the other direction again. And our letter was just encouraging the administration to stand firm in its position and say, do what was right, get the economy going again. If they have other alternatives on the auto industry, look for those, but don't become inconsistent.
Oh, okay, but Congressman Garrett, the thing that we have learned throughout the past couple of days, and since we do know that Treasury has been up all night, is there is talk that the money will be delivered through the GMAC and Chrysler financial financing units of the two companies. That would prevent other industrial companies from coming to the TARP fund for necessary funds. And what we believe is what's going on behind closed doors is Treasury Secretary Paulson is listing a very difficult set of standards by which the companies will be forced to restructure, including talking to major commercial banks who tapped into those funds that would be the backstop of those debtor-in-possession concerns if they were to file for Chapter 11. Doesn't that sound like a reasonable plan?
Well, a couple things come from that. One is the president said, and I agree with him, when he said that we should not be putting ourselves, that means the American taxpayer, in the position of throwing good money after bad. And we may, because we haven't seen the details on this, of course, you and I, may be putting ourselves in the exact same position where we're saying we're going to give you some loans today, whether it's for a reorganized bankruptcy or however you're going to, so it's not disorganized, however you want to couch the terms. But at the end of the day, we're going to come right back here, have the same sort of program in January, February, and March, coming back to the Congress or the administration saying how we're going to throw more money after them. So we haven't seen the terms of it. If they can, if they go ahead.
Let me just go to Congressman McCotter, and then I'll come back to you on this, Congressman McCotter, because I want to get you in here. It appears to me, frankly, when I'm reading some of the details here, some of the things that Senator Corker talked about, some of the details that Treasury Secretary Paulson is talking about, I'm actually kind of thrilled that he might be going to these commercial banks and saying, hey, wait a second, you're going to have to backstop some of these debtor-in-possession loans because we've been giving them money without the level of scrutiny that we've been giving the Detroit Three.
Yes, well, I think you're right, Alexis. We usually prefer people who are occasionally right to people who are consistently wrong. And so what we're seeing with the Wall Street bailout money, which is a case of good money after bad in both, I think, my mind and Scott's, is to actually utilize appropriated funds to get it to the auto industry so they can keep people employed, keep people in their homes, and help keep the foreclosure crisis from getting worse and help to stabilize credit markets.
Congressman, I'm sorry, Congressman Garrett, you wanted to finish a second point there. What was that?
Well, the second point is that we didn't want to ever get in a position where the government was going to be dictating to the banks who they have to loan to. That's where we got in this problem in the first place, by telling the banks they have to loan to the subprime market, and that created the whole housing bubble. If what the government's plan now is, administration's plan now is, we're going to say, banks, we gave you money, now we're going to tell you that you have to use this money on the same thing that the administration didn't want to give our tax dollars out to, we're really just doing what the administration said it wouldn't do before. And that's why I go back to my opening comment. We have to be consistent in order to get the market going again.
Okay, Congressman McCotter, let's be perfectly frank about this. If we do not force a restructuring or some type of government-assisted bankruptcy, they will never change the legacy issues. Do you not agree that some kind of massive restructuring should be required, even if it is prepared in advance for a Chapter 11 filing, to make sure that the future is much brighter than the current situation?
Well, speaking of consistency, the president has said bankruptcy is not an option, and now he has qualified it with a disorderly collapse of the auto industry is not an option. I suppose they prefer an orderly collapse. When we talk about the legacy costs, Alexis, we all understand that there has to be restructuring continued in the auto industry. We've had restructuring in the past. And as for legacy costs, those are human beings who've worked an entire lifetime for benefits by the rules that they've earned. And you can come to Southeast Michigan and meet them as they lose their health care benefits. But we understand that for the survivability of the auto industry, we have to continue restructuring. But we want to do it with stakeholders and a federal partner, not a federal dictator dragging us into bankruptcy.
Okay, Congressman Garrett, I want to go back to your point there where we were talking about the commercial banks standing up there as a backstop to debtor in possession. I imagine if I'm Treasury Secretary Paulson, I turn to them and say, listen, there's as much as $300 billion tied in loans to this entire industry. You've got one of two choices. Either they're going to file Chapter 11 and your ability to recoup a lot of those losses is going to be negligible because in the case of some of them, they've already pledged their assets, or you can stand up as the debtor in possession to backstop some of these loans while we guarantee what the restructured contracts are going to look like. And you know what? At the end of the day, the U.S. government is going to backstop those funds so that people will go out and buy cars from companies that are theoretically in a Chapter 11 restructuring.
Well, you know, your very last sentence there is actually the most important one. Theoretically, the American public is going to go out and buy those cars. Isn't that really the crux of the whole problem here? That the American public isn't buying the cars. So we could put the American public as a backstop. That means we're at risk. You and I, the taxpayers, are at risk. But if the American public is not buying them, all of this will be up for naught. So maybe what we should need to do is not to go from a top-down approach. Maybe what we need to do is not force the banks to start lending where we don't want to lend and where nobody else wants to lend. Maybe what we should do is from a bottom-up approach. What can we do as a carrot and a stick, or maybe just a carrot approach, to encourage Americans to start buying cars again? And remember, one last point, this is not just an American problem. You know, Toyota announced the other day that they are having the prospect for a loss for the first time in 71 years.
Exactly.
So this is not just an American industry problem. This is a globally problem. We need to get people buying cars again.
All right,
and that's
Congressman,
where we should some of the
I
focus.
apologize. I have to leave it there. I could continue to talk to you about this for hours, but I got to leave it there. Congressman Garrett and Congressman McCotter, thank you guys very much. Well, our next guest is absolutely against any bailout. He thinks Detroit can fail and it won't hurt the economy. Dan Griswold is the Director of Trade Policy Studies at the Cato Institute, and he joins us right